All right, we're going to talk about teaching new skills today. We're going to talk about errorless learning, direct instruction. We're going to get into talk about task analysis, and our favorite component is data collection. This topic for me is really important. I actually was trained as an ABA therapist in the field of behavior analysis 20 years ago when being a BCBA was like a really big deal. And I learned with some of the biggest BCBAs. I moved out of the behavior concept, meaning I am much more of a holistic educator, that I'm a true believer in when we teach a student a skill in individualized and thoughtful ways, that is where the learning happens. Okay, and not just for our kids with disabilities. I also use this a lot with my own children. Okay, and the difference of having a student in a third grade math class and trying to do a group lesson on a work page, and the difference of a student raising their hand and asking for support and you going over and modeling the correct answer, having them practice it again, having them try it again, and then they're good. Their moment of learning right in that moment is going to be way more successful than when they're in a group of 25 students, right? So we apply that to our own students in special education because we know that many of our students have a really hard time learning as a group, okay, retaining information and practicing that information. So I do want to make the distinction that we are not calling this discrete trial training, okay? We're not trying to drill in these trials and practices over and over again. That is the foundation and basis of how we initially instruct, and then we build it out for application and generalization. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what this means. We are now looking at the process of implementation of how we actually teach those curriculum lessons on a daily basis, how we collect that data on a daily basis. Right? And then at the end of the day today, we're going to talk about how we actually analyze and understand that data. But this is a really, really crucial and important piece. Okay. So instructional strategies, the two that you will find in this program are direct instruction and task analysis. We're going to talk about each one of those. Teaching procedures, we do touch on errorless learning, use of prompts, prompt baiting, and error corrections. Okay, I'm going to talk about it. So like I say, you're going to find some terms in the program that are based on the field of applied behavior analysis. We know that there is a lot of bad rap right now for ABA and what ABA is and how it takes away from a student's or a child or a person's ability to be themselves and engage in behaviors that are okay, right, ethically. What many people don't understand is ABA is based on behavioral sciences. The science of behavior, the science of a stimulus, a response, and a consequence that all of us engage in all day long and have access to, and it's part of our environment. What we're doing now is using just a simple instructional unit, we call it a learn unit, to teach kids with disabilities how to learn, okay? How to learn and what to learn so that they can have the skills for life to be able to better be independent, right? Improve quality of life. So you're going to see a lot of things in those lesson scripts and those lesson plans that say an SD or a Q. ABA speak means discriminative stimulus. Don't worry about that. Instruction. All of that is ABA speak for instruction or an event that evokes a response. It could be natural or delivered. So I could say to my daughter, go put your coat on the coat rack. That's the instruction. What is the response that I want from her? To put her coat on the coat rack. If she does it, what do I say? Thank you so much for putting your coat on the coat rack. Okay, that is a very natural learn unit, let's say. Okay, if my daughter doesn't put her coat on the coat rack and they engage in what we call an error correction, remind her, support her, help her in some way, it goes on the coat rack. Thank you so much for putting it on the coat rack. Okay. In task analysis and naturally occurring events, my favorite one that we find in the environment all the time is the green lights and red lights in our neighborhoods. Okay, we're driving down the road. Red light is a naturally occurring cue. What is the behavior that you engage in? You stop your car. Okay. What is that reinforcement? Well, you get applause for stopping your car basically because you don't hit anyone and you don't get a ticket. We actually call that more like negative reinforcement. But that is an event or stimulus that is naturally occurring in an environment. I always say to people too, the little Walkman on the crosswalk. Okay. You hit the button, the Walkman is a naturally occurring stimulus that evokes a response, which is to walk. Okay. So we have naturally and instructional cues around us all day long. Okay, we use them with our children, we use them with our partners, we use them with our family members. I teach my mom via ABA how to use her iPhone. Okay, just really clear instruction, model mom, this is how you do it. You try, okay, great, awesome. Now you can call me, okay? iPhones. Reinforcement is that motivating consequence following a behavior that results in the future occurrence. If something happens after you do something that you like, you are most likely to do it again. Nature of behavior sciences, okay? Student correct response. In this context, we are talking about the student correct response. So what do we want from our students? We want them to get the right answers, right? What word is this? Car, good job, that's car, Kate. However, those consequences need to be reinforcing for that student, okay? If the student really likes verbal praise, like, oh, awesome, high five, fist bump, give me, then that's gonna work. If the student doesn't really like that, then it doesn't work, right? It has to be a motivating consequence, okay? Prompts is what we call assistance or cues to evoke the correct response. We're gonna talk about lots of different ways to prompt today. But if a student cannot get that correct response on the first try or second try, we're gonna talk about that. We're going to support them a little bit. Okay. Prompt fading is slowly we withdraw our prompts, okay? Because what do we want ultimately? We want our students to get independent correct responses because that's where learning happens, that's where growth happens, that's where we can build on that growth and generalize it into the natural environment. Talk about errorless learning. This is something that you will read in the curriculum teacher's manual. It is not embedded in the script, okay, in the lesson plan scripts. It can be a really great tool to start instruction, okay, when we begin instruction. Our early learners, our learners who may have been out of the classroom for a long time, our learners who may have some really challenging behaviors that just need that immediate support to get the right answer so they can access that reinforcement, okay? So the instruction, what letter? Okay, immediate prompt, A, they get the correct response, A, good job, high five. Okay, it is just where we add in a prompt right after that instruction to make sure that they get the correct response. Because what do our kids need? They need to know that they're doing well, okay? And we didn't let them know that they're doing well. So errorless learning can be really common and thoughtful again and helpful for our really early learners, kiddos with challenging behaviors, our kiddos that just really need a high level of support to get those correct answers. Then we slowly fade them out, okay? So it's the instruction and immediate support, they get the right answer, and we let them know that they got that right answer. What are some kinds of prompts? Okay, here's a bunch. We use a lot of them. Let's just use instruction of give me the letter A, give me, let's say nonverbal, okay? So give me the letter A, let's say they have 3 letters on the table, give me A. Lots of ways we can prompt, okay? Full physical is I'm physically touching this student to help me give me the A. Partial physical is maybe I am partly touching their arm or elbow or something. A model is, oh, my turn. This is A, your turn, you do it. Okay, gesture, you could be pointing. Verbal, well, the instruction is verbal, but sometimes, oh, you're really close, you got it. Okay, spatial, remember we talked about if we have those 3 letters right in front of the student, maybe we push one forward. Give me the letter A. Okay, those are prompts. Maybe a visual support. Maybe you're actually showing them the letter A and then they have to match. Okay, so there's lots of different ways that we can build in these prompts or supports to make sure that student gets the right answer immediately before they get the reinforcement. When we create a program or write an IEP goal, sometimes we have to build in the prompt supports within the goal to make sure that anyone who's delivering that instruction delivers it in the same way. Okay, we can slowly fade those out over time, but sometimes goals need to be written or designed with prompts embedded. I'm not sure we have time for all of these. This is a long one, but all of these are on the website. Actually, I am gonna show this, okay? Maybe the first minute or so. Let me know if you can't hear it.
Done. Remember the new one.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is Dr. Candace Steyer. She is teaching time telling on the 45-minute increment to a young man. Okay, the unlearned skill or the non-skill or the skill he's learning is 45-minute increments. Skills that he does have is telling time on the hour. So just check the first.
It's not quite on the 4. It's not quite on the 5. It's still 4. 45. 445. Not quite on the 6. It's still 5. 45. Not quite on the 7. It's still 6.
15.
45.
5.
645. Not quite on the 8. It's 7.
14.
45.
5.
45.
5.
Not quite on the 9. It's 8.
8. 14.
45.
5.
When the big hand's on the 9, buddy, it's 45. Always. So now it's 9:45. What time is it?
9 to 5.
Right. And now it's 10:45. What time?
10 to the 5.
10:45.
10 to the 5.
10:45. Right. And now it's 11:45. Awesome. I could really understand that. Now it is 11:40.
35.
Good. Now it's 45.
35.
You are doing an awesome job of working, buddy.
2. 25.
Nice. 2:45.
3 to the 5.
3:45. What time is it now? It's a little hand up. Good job, buddy. Okay, remember our new one. Now it's not quite on the 4. It's still 3:45. Nice job.
Okay, so that's an example of how errorless learning could look in initial stages of instruction. And I love that example of it. Okay, she was not taking data during that. It was just an instructional piece, but that's what an example of errorless learning could look like.
Nicely done.
Okay, when we look at direct instruction, we are now feeding that prompt. We have the instruction, we have the correct response of the student, and we deliver a reinforcement or praise or an award, whatever you'd like to call it. Okay, so the instruction is give me A, the correct response is the student delivers the letter A, and the praise is something that's motivating to them, right? That reinforcement is something that is motivating to them. Many students are motivated just by a verbal praise, what we call awesome job. Okay, some students need a little bit more reinforcement of things that are motivating to them. Let's talk about those kinds of different reinforcements. I love this slide. I hope you come back to it. Use it with your students or with your teachers who are students, with your teachers who are teaching that are often students because you're teaching them, right? We have social reinforcement, high five, hug, woohoo, verbal praise, awesome, that's amazing, you're awesome, high five. You know, all of the cool things that are trending are the words we use with our students right now, right? Maybe some of our students need something a little bit more tangible. Maybe they need that favorite toy in their hands. Maybe they need that cool spinner fidget spinner right after they get the correct response. Maybe they do a little token. You guys are familiar with token systems, right? They get a little penny in the jar, they get a marble in the jar, and if they get up to a certain amount, then they get their bigger reinforcement. Maybe they get a poker chip on a strip of paper that has 5 spaces, and when they are done, they get that bigger reinforcement. Okay, your tangible reinforcement for what you do is that nice paycheck that comes every month or every 15 days, or when you see that automatic deposit in your bank account. That is often your tangible reinforcement for what you do. Okay, you don't get it every day, you don't get it for every second that you're working, but you do get it added up, and you get it at the end of every month. Okay, point systems, really common. Maybe it's an activity. Okay, as soon as we're finished doing this one activity or this 1 or 2 things, we get to go to the playground or the recess 10 minutes early. let's go hang out in the gym and play basketball. Maybe they get to listen to music or dance. Okay, one of my students in Peru, her favorite thing to do was to dance to Madonna. And that's what she worked for all the time, was to have a dance party with Madonna. All right. And we didn't learn that or know that for a long time until one day she chose that song, and that's how it stayed. Sensory. A lot of our kids love fidgets. Maybe it's a hammock, maybe it's a massage, maybe it's tickles. Some kiddos really don't like that. Some people do. Maybe it's edible. Okay, we see a lot of edibles. It's not my favorite thing to use in the school environment, but sometimes it's necessary. Okay, I have been known to have popcorn in my pocket when supporting a student in the first few days of a gen ed inclusive classroom. And for all of the things he was doing correct in behavior, I have been known to pick popcorn out of my pocket, and sometimes it's needed. Okay, but there's lots of different ways to do reinforcement. So we're going to talk about, this is a really quick example of a very simple instruction, correct response, and reinforcement.
Very good. $4.89. Okay, give me $1.
Taking a picture of me.
Give me $1.
One. Oh. One.
Good job. Okay, give me.
Okay, give me $1. She gave her $1. Good job. All right, we think that's easy, but
Very good.
most of the time,
$4.89.
not most of the time. What happens often in initial stages of instruction? Our students don't get the right answer, right? And this is where that instruction is so important. This is where that error correction and how we model and immediately intervene to make sure that student gets the right answer is so important, okay? So instruction, give me $1. Incorrect response could be she gives you $5, or what we see often with money math, for those of you who have taught money math, the student just keeps giving you money until you say stop, okay? Because they're still learning the skill. So instruction is give me $1. They are just handing you dollar after dollar, okay? We engage in what we call a correction procedure. Okay, the correct behavior is modeled. We show them the correct answer, and then the instruction is repeated. Okay, so there are several steps, and this is where I really encourage practicing, getting teachers to practice, working with teachers, trying it yourself. We stop the student. Okay, give me $1. She's just giving you money after money. Oh, stop. This is $1. Number 2, model the correct response. This is $1. $1. Repeat the instruction. Your turn. Give me $1. Okay, wait for the correct response. We present, okay, if we present the instruction again, we wait for that independent correct response. Okay, when they get it, we reinforce. This can happen a couple of times, 2, 3, 4 times. I always say there's some rules around this, right? It's not as easy as a really quick webinar. Not over and over and over again, right? Maybe 2 times. If the student is not getting it, move on to the next instruction. Okay, you can always come back. But the point is, don't let the student get the wrong answer and then you do other things like try again or keep trying, right? Oh, stop. I'm going to show you what that right answer is. Now your turn. Do it again. Good. Try it again. Do it again. And then you move on. Okay. So how we model the correct behavior, how we give an opportunity to get the right answer again, and we reinforce that right answer is going to increase our students' probability of getting that right answer again in the future because they were shown the right answer immediately and then allowed to try again and get it. Okay. So let's look at this correction procedure.
Three. Just go on.
Stop. $4.10. Watch me.
Okay.
1,
1,
2, 3, $4.10. Okay, let's do it together. Give me $4.10. 1. Wait till it's in my hand. Try that again. Give me $4.10. Let's do it together.
I can't.
1, 2, 3, 4. Good job. And 10 cents. Excellent. That's counting the right way. Now give me $4.10 on your own.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 10.
Excellent job. You did it on your own, Stephanie. Very good.
Okay, see how that correction procedure worked? This is where we see the majority of error in the instruction on the teacher's end. Okay, so this is where most teachers need the most practice in engaging in an error correction immediately after the incorrect answer, modeling it, giving them an opportunity to get it right, and trying it again before moving on to the next one. What I would see over and over and over again is, give me $4.10. Give me $4.10. Come on, you can do it. Give me, no, that's not right. No, put it back. No, I said $4.10. No, you're not getting it right. No, $4.10. I said $4.10. Okay. Very common over and over and over again of repeating that instruction instead of the first time they get it incorrect, immediately stopping them, engaging, intervening, modeling, and giving an opportunity to get it right, and then moving on. So this is where the real instruction happens, and this is where you will see the skills building. Okay. I'm going to show just a real small clip of this one because I love this video and I love this student. I don't even know her, but I just love watching her. She's a student who is completely blind. There was a lot of visual supports and task things happening in this. I'm going to move it up to the instruction. I love this one because it's a great example of not all students have the same processing time. Sometimes we do have to wait for them and understand that maybe we do need to deliver the instruction just one more time and allow for them to respond. Okay. And then when she gets the right answer, it's kind of cool. So let me move it up to that section.
Work drawer, which is the second drawer.
Those task boxes that she has there with all her materials in them. Yeah.
Can you count out $2.61, please?
Or what do you want to watch?
$2.61.
Yes, I think I got it. 20. Well, we did go to choir, but choir has first one.
$1.
So it's not.
$2.61. Nice job.
Excellent.
All right. High five, Mrs. Hand.
Okay, I'm giving you one high five. Excellent job.
All right, moving on. I need you to count out $4.10. $1. $2. And 10 cents.
Oh, stop. Watch me. $4.10. 1, 2, 3, $4.10. Okay, your turn. Count out. $4.10.
Actually, can you put your
Spencer, you need to get ready for your job, okay, buddy? Sorry, Spencer. $4.10, please. $1. $2.
$10. $4.10.
Nice job. Why don't you go ahead and take a ticket? Okay, so
Okay, so you can see that that was a great correction procedure. The instructor intervened right away when she got it wrong, modeled it, and then Savannah got it right. You can see that some students are going to need a lot more processing time, and trying to get through 10 trials with her is going to take a lot longer than a different student, right? So these kind of different ways that you're going to schedule for time will be different based on your students. Okay. So how do we collect data when we're doing direct instruction? We love data. Data shows us progress. What I love most about data is it shows us lack of progress, okay? And data can be our own reinforcement. When you get into collecting data and you as a teacher or your teachers get into collecting data and you are seeing those data points grow, let me tell you, that is a massive reinforcement to us as educators because it validates that we are doing something right. Okay, we are delivering instruction correctly. We are actually seeing progress in our kids. And I know in this field, oftentimes it is really hard to see progress in a visible and observable way, right? Sometimes I had so much teacher turnover in my classroom with kiddos with very significant disability because there was so little progress seen over time, right? For many of our teachers, and they felt really frustrated. But when they started being able to collect data and see that the child was actually progressing, right? It's such a reinforcement to us in the work that we do. So data collection rule, for every independent correct response, we are going to put a circle around the answer, right? The number, okay? The trial is considered a plus. And so you're going to put, I'll show you the data sheet in a second. For an incorrect response, it will be a minus. Incorrect response means that first immediate incorrect response where you're going to have to do an error correction, you mark it on that data sheet immediately. An incorrect response could also be a non-response. Okay, it could be a prompted response or an incorrect response, but it needs to be marked as incorrect because it was not an independent correct response. So here are the data sheets that you will find in the program. Okay, you will find a data sheet that corresponds to every single lesson plan that is in the program. Many of them are similar, but they're actually unique to each program. Each column represents a day. You will put your initials, the date, and then circle the correct responses and align through the incorrect responses. One of the fun things we'll talk about when we talk about evaluating data and progress is to put a square around the percentage that was calculated so you can see on a daily basis what percentages your students are getting. Okay, so we ask for initials because when data goes wonky, we kind of like to see who's taken the data. So we ask for putting your initials, but this is a very simple way to take data. Okay, when and how often is always a question. My personal recommendation and what I really highly encourage people to do is to take data every single time you sit to work with a student on a functional academics program. Okay, and you're going to take the first data on the first 10 opportunities. We call them trials in discrete trial data and discrete trial training data. Let's call them opportunities. Okay, you're doing money math. You're going to present 10 different numerical amounts that that student is going to give you. Okay, it could take a long time if it's somebody like Savannah. It could be really fast if it's somebody who can count really quickly, right? Okay, why do we take data every single time? We'll talk about it in evaluating student data near the end of the day. But if you only take data on Fridays, really common, you hear it all the time. Well, I only assess or only take data on Fridays. How many data points are you going to have to get in a row to see if that student actually meets mastery criteria? It's going to take forever for you to get through that program, right? So I really highly recommend every time you sit to work with the student, you can take data. Okay. I do want to let you know that we do have more training resources for all of this on the website. It is in the Functional Academics Support Center, okay, and on the YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and watch a longer version of this training, there's an hour video available for you. Okay, so we do have some more. Oops, we don't want to get into that right now. Okay, we also have in the Functional Academics YouTube channel, if you haven't bookmarked it already, there's a playlist called Instructional Strategies, and all of the videos that we usually embed inside of this training when we do in person are all on that site as well. And it's really fun to go through and look at them because we love models, right? We love watching our kids. So I highly recommend you take those on as well. Okay, and again, in the support center. So I often highly encourage when you are training other teachers, you allow time for them to practice. We highly encourage teachers to pair up, to select programs and lesson plans that they want to practice, to find those corresponding lesson plans and data sheets and the teaching materials that go with it. I often provide clear plastic sheet protectors and wipe off markers to put over the data sheet so they can practice taking the data so you're not marking up those really nice sheets. I love actually having teachers do it while other people are observing and then give feedback. Okay, so things like, what was the instruction? Good. Did the student get the correct answer? Yes. What was the reinforcement? Bubbles. Great. What was the instruction? Good. How was the error correction? What did they do? Did they do it correctly? Okay, so when you have teachers who are together, this is an amazing way to work and practice and instruct. When you go into the classrooms to observe, once, assessment, all that stuff is done, and now they're in the curriculum and they're teaching on a daily basis, this is what you want to see. You want to be able to see them practicing direct instruction. I have teachers that also do video with their admins. Okay, cell phones are really easy nowadays to take a quick video. You could have a paraeducator, peer tutor, whoever, take a quick video of you delivering instruction with the student and send it for review. I know for a lot of you, it's very hard to get in the classroom and see teachers on an ongoing basis, but there's lots of ways that we can do this, okay? Actually, we're training teachers in Latin America through WhatsApp video. So there's lots of ways that you can practice, but the error correction direct instruction component is really important, okay, for the success and implementation of this program. Is that it? Oh, is that the end of my section? So, is that it? Okay, so it is. Now we're going to talk about how we teach these new skills with task analysis instruction and collect data. Okay, so we did talk about direct instruction. Now we're going to talk about task analysis, which means we are teaching a skill that has a sequence of steps, and we're going to use prompts and prompt feeding to instruct it. So what does that mean? Task analysis is a skill broken down into a sequence of small steps. You are going to find the task analysis lesson plans in all of the independent, community-based training, technology, and pre-vocational lessons. The cues come from the setting itself. So this is something like, go wash your hands, which I know all of you do all day long with all of your students, and many of you probably have a little sequential visual step thing next to the sink. What steps do you have to take to wash your hands? Sound familiar? Okay, I know that many of you have that. That is not a go and do it, only one correct possible response, and then we reinforce, right? The steps involved in washing your hands, the way you do it can be so variable. How about go make cookies? Okay, it's not only one possible correct response. It's a whole sequence that a student will have to memorize or learn in order to be independent. Okay, so we're going to see that as we instruct independent skills like tying our shoes, going to the bathroom, washing our hands, brushing our teeth, all of those things that are independent, putting on clothes, putting on your jacket, getting your backpack ready. Okay, community-based training. We go to the store to go shopping. There are so many sequences that can be followed, right? That need to be broken down, and a student is going to learn them in a sequential way. Again, those cues come from the setting themselves. So it's a little bit different than when we do a direct instruction and we are delivering the instruction. We are saying or presenting material for the student to respond. The cues in task analysis come from the setting themselves, which means if a student comes to the sink, the natural cue is the sink, what they're supposed to do there. The natural cue for turning on the water is the faucet, right? You turn on the faucet, the water comes out. That's the natural cue for the student to put their hands under the water, okay? So these are naturally occurring cues that happen that students have to pay attention, learn how to pay attention to and know what to do next. Okay, So why do we like task analysis? Because it allows for consistency. We can individualize the tasks, the way we break them down for different students, because everyone's going to learn a little bit differently. And we provide a systematic instruction. How many of you have tried to teach a student to, let's say, put on their jacket? Okay, put on their jacket before to get ready for school, to get in the line to leave. Okay, and it becomes frustrating because they need a lot of level of support. Okay, go get your jacket. There's a lot of steps. Get the jacket, grab it, put one arm in, put the other arm in, zip. For one student, that could be very simple. For somebody else, it can be very frustrating, right? And it takes a lot of level of reminders, repeating, support, help. Okay, so we're going to break it down. So again, you're going to see this in a lot of the technology programs, the time management, the pre-vocational, independent skills, and community-based training. Again, the cue comes from the environment itself. There's a correct response that happens, and then you reinforce. But each step in the sequence is as if it was its own learn unit, okay? They see the cue. If they're not getting it right, you can also present a prompt in that moment to elicit the correct response to then reinforce. Let's see what that looks like, okay? So a child is handed their shoes. That's the prompt. You don't have to say anything, right? You can just hand the child their shoes. The expectation is they put them on and tie them, or put them on and put the Velcro on. So child is handed their shoes. A prompt could be, remember those similar prompts we just talked about? A full physical, we are physically going to help them with their hands, put them on. Maybe partial physical, we're going to help support them. A model is you could be putting on your shoes at the same time. A gesture is you're pointing. A verbal is put on your shoes. Okay, spatial, visual, all different ways that you can be supporting that child in that skill right there. But how do we break it down? Okay. Oops. Here's an example of hand washing in the initial acquisition. Hang on a second, let's make sure I didn't forget something.
Following is a simulation.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we understand that there's a step and a sequence, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But here's an example of washing.
Of prompting and correction in a natural environment.
Okay, you've turned on the water. You need to pump some soap. Okay, you've pumped the soap. You need to rub your hands together. Good job. Nice job washing your hands. Way to get that soap off. Okay, you have rinsed the soap off. It is time to turn off the water. Great job. Good listening. Okay, now that you have turned off the water, you need to dry your hands on a towel. Nice job drying your hands and great.
Okay, so what was the prompt that was used mostly each one of those steps? A verbal prompt, right? Like a verbal support or instruction that was accompany each one of those steps. Ultimately, what do we want? We want that student to be able to go to the sink and wash their hands with 100% independent support or without support. We talked about what reinforcement can be. So when the student does not get the correct response, we're going to prompt that sequence and help the sequence continue. So as you saw, after each step, there was a prompt or a support or an instruction delivered. And then that same very similar correction procedure can happen again, except for this time, we're not necessarily modeling, right? We are just prompting in situ, in cue for them to get that correct step, okay? So this is when they're fading the prompts, you can hear that she's reinforcing what the student is doing in each sequence, but not necessarily instructing now.
This is a demonstration of teaching some of the.
Okay, you've turned on the water. What do you need to do? Nice job rubbing your hands together. You're working hard. Excellent job remembering to rinse it off. Okay, now your soap is rinsed off. What do you need to do? Okay, stop. You've already used soap. And good job rinsing. And now that they're rinsed off, what's next? Good job. Nice job remembering to use the towel to dry your hands this time.
Okay.
The previous example.
So you can see there that there was still the verbal prompt, but it wasn't an instruction anymore. It was a, what do you need to do, right? That was a verbal support.
This is a
Okay. So again, what does the data collection look like for task analysis? There's data sheets that accompany each one of the task analysis programs. It's going to be coded a little bit differently. Where in direct instruction, we actually are circling the correct response and putting a line through the incorrect response. In task analysis, we are actually only coding the prompts. How many times do we have to support that student during the sequence, the task sequence? Because ultimately, we want the least amount of prompts possible. Some of you have probably written IEP goals that say, complete this task at 80% with less than or fewer than 3 prompts or something like that, right? So we're actually only coding the prompts, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is a data sheet for community-based training, which is we're going shopping. We have the same columns as we see in the DIT data sheets with the initial and the date. But here is the sequence that we are going to request our student. We're going to instruct our student to memorize or learn, right? We can do that in lots of different ways. And we are coding, each tally mark is the prompt that was delivered, okay? So we are tally marking at the end of the day, 7 prompts here, 5 prompts here. Some of the data sheets have a couple of other things like which store did you go to, right? Because that can really change the data. How many items did they buy? That can change the data. We leave it blank if the student completed that task on their own, that one sequence, the task in the sequence on their own, okay? Sometimes I put an X as an incorrect response, okay? So instead of, getting the cart or the basket, maybe they like jump on it and run off through the grocery store, okay? So if we have to do a little correction, I often just like to see the tally marks on the columns as we go through. All right. If you want to get a little bit more complicated or detailed, which oftentimes in those initial learning stages, these data sheets can really be helpful because a prompt, as we saw, can mean so many things, right? The difference in the level of independence of a prompt that was a full physical prompt, like get the grocery cart, and we are literally putting our hands on that student's hands to grab the cart and move into the store, is very different. That level of independence is very different from a student who only needs like a gesture, like, oh, kind of like, you know what to do, but oh, I see the carts over there. Okay, that is a very different level of independence. So oftentimes in our initial stages, we like these data sheets. P is physical, G is gesture, V is verbal. So if I see all physical prompts, that looks really different than a student who has only verbal prompts, right? That level of independence is very different. So if you need to have a little bit more detail on how you're prompting the student, you can use this data sheet. Most of the task analysis programs have both of the data sheets available, okay? So that is that. What I love most about this program is that you can actually download your own blank task analysis data sheet. It is in the curriculum forms when you have the programs in elementary or secondary for independent skills or community-based training. When you go into the lesson plans and data sheets, there's actually something within those lesson plans that says like lesson plan data sheet, and then it will say blank task analysis sheet. I'll show you in a minute. I'll pull it up for you. That you can write out your own sequence. Okay, because that gives us a much more, a larger ability to individualize. And then we can adapt it to our own curriculum. Because as you know, a lot of the things you see in CBT and independent skills are initial foundational ones. But how many of you guys are doing so many more different things in your community and in your school? You can write your own lesson plan and data sheet for what those are. Okay. I often have teachers go through the process of making their own sequence for doing something. Okay, so when I train on this, I often say, we are going to make a strawberry smoothie. I want all of you to grab a piece of paper and write down the sequence of steps in making that strawberry smoothie. Okay. And so many of those sequences look so different, right? Or some of them, then they share them out and they say, oh, I forgot to plug in the blender, or I forgot to add in, put the lid on the blender, or I forgot to add in, right? So when you have to kind of make your own sequence and walk through those steps yourself, it's going to give you that ability to flesh out the sequence of a task for your task data sheet. And then when you sit down to work with a student or stand up or in the community or wherever you are, you can instruct in a much easier sequence those activities. Okay. We also have included in the package, the print package. I'm not sure if they're available on the digital site. I'll have to find out. But we have portable wipe off task analysis cards. You can put them on a key ring. You can put them on your belt. So if you are in the community or at the kitchen or the kiosk or wherever you are in your school, in your classroom, you can just collect the data in situ and then transfer it to the paper data sheet later. Okay. So again, how often? I always recommend every time you're going to work with a student on a program that is within their IEP or a program that they have assigned to them within Steyer Fitzgerald Functional Academics, you always take data. Always. No exception to the rule. Okay, that's just me. Okay, so we're going to take a break now. And let me